Welcome to Texans Unfiltered.
Here we go.
A Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans.
All right. Welcome to another edition of Texans Unfiltered, a Houston football podcast for your Houston Texans. In the background, you're going to hear Jack, my other little guy. We are joined by, look at that, what a special guest. Hi, Jack. I know you can't hear me because your dad has his headphones on. It's all good though. We are joined by Jack, and we are joined by John. And, of course, it seems to be a staple now, Jordan. You're pretty much just wherever me and John are, boom, there's Jordan. I like it.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm always loving to talk football, so I'm glad I'm back.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jordan is Texans thoughts, obviously. What a night to talk about things going on with the Texans, because, God, the schedule, those first 4 weeks are interesting, to say the least. Hey, Cody, start.
Are we going to just hop straight into it?
I mean, hi, Swan.
We got Cody, we got Swan. It's a party now.
Swan's going to destroy me and Jordan right now, and she's waiting. She's like chomping at us about
What did y'all do?
Clowney.
Oh.
Clowney, the most underrated defensive player in the league.
It was a day.
Look at total yards with him on the team versus total yards with him not on the team.
Well, you know what's funny?
All the way back through college. I mean,
Jordan had the best pull today. And unfortunately, as soon as I saw it, and it was like 2 minutes after he put it out, I was like, oh, God, it's Whitney. Jadeveon. And it's a great poll because people that didn't know, they all went with Whitney. But then at the end, once he changed up the phrasing and actually said who it was, everybody would have said that they would have rather had Clowney. So, kind of tells a story that stats don't matter as much as people would like to imagine. So,
no, I was going to try and troll him, and then I got crazy busy at work. As soon as he put up the poll, I knew who he was talking about, and I was like, "How secret is he trying to keep this?" But there's other stats that you can put up there that actually make Clowney look pretty good. They're just not the stats you typically look at.
Yeah, if you just watch film, that's it. I mean, that's all you really got to do. Don't need to look.
Part of me is convinced that quarterbacks, more so than just about any other player out there, always know where Clowney's at.
You know what the funny thing is, specifically with Swan and Clowney, is I think Swan really loves Clowney, but she is looking at the dollar amount more than anything. I've had conversations with her. She's admitted that the talent is there. She's talked about, how disruptive she is. She even did it today in a couple tweets that she sent back. I think it's more for her. It's everybody that dogged Bill O'Brien for trading Clowney, which at the end of the day now is looking like the best move, right? Because for everybody that was saying that, we would have guaranteed a third round comp pick. Well, guess what? Seattle lost out on that. So, I think that's part of it. She's tired of the Bill O'Brien bashing, and that's one thing that people have bashed Bill O'Brien for.
No, I mean, and it's fair. I mean, it's looking like Bill O'Brien played his hand correctly with Clowney. Based on what his market right now, I mean, it's kind of obvious that Clowney overvalued himself, and we actually got something for him. Now, in a perfect world, we get Clowney back. I can more than look at it. If I was Clowney, the first thing I would have done was like, "Hey, Bill, is that deal still out there?"
Right.
But it is what it is, and it's a given that we all love Clowney. This is the first time that I haven't watched all of his games. I mean, I watched every single South Carolina game that he was, every Texans game that he was on. So y'all don't have to convince me. It's just it was a great little fight y'all were having this morning, or on Twitter, I should say.
So Jordan, go ahead. Yeah, I was just about to say, Jordan, go.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna recap. I was saying I was defending every last tweet that I was seeing for hours. I spent way too long doing it personally. I usually try not to do that, spend too much time defending, but he's one of those players where I'm just gonna have to do it. I'm just gonna have to spend the time because he's that special, man. And I was that hurt when we lost him, and I'm still that hurt. they say time heals things, and I guess it has to an extent, but every
Well,
time I
we
see his
love
name
Jacob
pop back
Martin.
up again,
At least we got
that's the
Jacob Martin.
thing. We got a good return. You can't be that mad at it. With him only having 1 year left on his deal, we weren't going to get the best return, but getting Garyon Conley, essentially a young cornerback one who we can still pay and still have for a future. And then y'all know how I feel about Jacob Martin. I'm not going to go too in depth on that, but so we got something at least.
Yeah, I think it's funny. The best part that you said right there was Garyon Conley, cornerback one, because at first I was the only one pounding my chest, jumping up on tables, saying Garyon Conley is cornerback one. Just wait, just wait. And Jordan and I were on the phone yesterday for like almost 2 hours just talking football and film. And he's writing a piece on Garyon Conley. And I asked him, so what are your thoughts on Conley as cornerback one? And Jordan, what did you say?
I said I'm 100% with you. I see it now. I didn't see it before because, when you're watching the live games, you don't get the full view of everything. But if you go to the All-22 where you see the cornerbacks and you see them the entirety of when they're on the field, you see that Conley is sticky, specifically in press man coverage. No one's getting by him. Quarterbacks aren't targeting him. And when they do, when he does get beat occasionally, which every corner does, he's able to recover, get back into the play, and make a play on the ball. And what more can you really ask for that?
Yeah, he's a stud. And then I guess, Jordan, do you want to give, because you're more familiar now with our conversation with Antonio Cromartie, as you put you transcribed everything. So me and Jordan sat down and talked to Antonio Cromartie today, which was just phenomenal. From two guys who just love watching cornerback film. You want to give them a brief synopsis of what they can expect from the interview on once we put it on the YouTube, but then also the article?
Yeah, so for the interview, James did a great job asking some really good questions to Antonio, and he ran through all of our top corners like Roby, Conley, and Hargraves, and it was really interesting what he talked about. One of the main things that stuck out to me is kind of the difference between man and zone coverage, and how I always thought that in man coverage in a cornerback, like you're one-on-one, you're on an island, so that's where it's kind of harder for them to play man coverage. But the way that Cromartie explained it is that zone's kind of harder. Zone, you've got a lot more going on. You've got to read not only the quarterback, but the wide receiver in front of you, and route recognition was the big thing he talked about. And so, yeah, he just did a really good job of breaking down all of our corners and differences in schemes and what he likes about our corners, what he doesn't like. And yeah, it was a great interview to see. And then in terms of the article, I'm going through every single Garyon Conley game last year. I'll probably go through some more of the Raiders games as well and try and put together an article about that. I'm trying to reach out to him, see if I can interview him the same kind of way I did Isaiah Coulter. That would be really great to add more to the article. But yeah, be on the lookout for that for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking to Antonio, there was a lot of gems, like he dropped knowledge. You would think, honestly, that he was still like a 12-year vet, the way that he was able to talk about the coverages and just the schemes. And the biggest thing I took away was, and now I can't think of the wording. Oh, backpedaling. He was talking about how cornerbacks nowadays don't backpedal at all. They all depend on their hips and being able to turn to run stride for stride with the wide receiver. So that was the biggest part for me that I got. It was a really, really good interview. Preston's in the process of actually editing the video now. So that was just a great conversation. Just a very good conversation. All right. Everybody is here though. Everybody's here to talk about the schedule. They want to know, they want us to tell them how to feel because that's what we do. And the schedule's interesting. The schedule's really interesting. I'm feeling really good about the schedule. And I've only glanced at it by typing it in on the banner at the bottom that you see, the little ESPN type thing at the bottom, telling you guys the schedule. You're welcome. It took like 3 minutes. So hard work and detail into the stream. Where do you, so we'll start week 1. At Kansas City. This is, for us, for Texans fans, this is probably best case scenario to start off. If Bill O'Brien wants to earn back trust and gain and establish some credibility with these fans after the DeAndre Hopkins stuff, he's going to have to come out here and show what this new offense looks like and come out of Kansas City with a win. Anybody?
Yeah. So
I
you want to go
kind
first,
of
Sean?
sort of disagree, but
Okay. You disagree. So you don't
I
think
disagree.
a win would make people feel better about Bill O'Brien and just the vision of the team if we go in there and put up 48 points and are hanging stride for stride score-wise with the top offense in the NFL?
let's just say that the way fandom in general is treating Bill O'Brien right now,
Mhm.
there would be a lot more people closer to how we currently are, where it's kind of like we're just kind of accepting him. We're not outright hating him. We're trying to see his vision. I think they come around a little bit on that, but I still think that the vast majority of fans will still want him gone. It's going to take a lot more than just beating the Chiefs.
It's a start, though.
It is a start. If And I would even say that if we go out and we're competitive with the Chiefs, if we go out there and we score 50 and it's like a 56, 49 type game, like something that's just insane with the amount of scoring and looks like a college game, I think a lot of fans actually come around that way. But I don't think they forgive Bill O'Brien in any form or fashion.
Yeah, I kind of echo that same sentiment. I don't think one game is going to do it. It's definitely, if there was a team to do it against, obviously beating the Chiefs would go a long way. But like you said, it's a long season and a lot more games to be played. But I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting more and more confident that we can win that first game. The Chiefs, they're going to be on their Super Bowl hangover. It's going to be the first game of the season that no one's taking us seriously. They're not going to take us seriously after knowing that how they just beat us recently. And I think one big thing that stands out to me is with Bill O'Brien and the offense in particular, it got predictable. You would see that throughout a game, but mainly you would see that throughout a season. Teams would be able to scheme for us, and they'd know what we were doing. The very first game, they don't know what our new look offense is going to look like. They're used to the Hopkins offense. They haven't seen Brandon Cooks yet. Hopefully, we're gonna have Will Fuller healthy. If there was a game, it's got to be the first game that he's going to be healthy. Same with JJ Watt, right? So we're hopefully going to be at full strength. They're not going to know our offense. That's our best chance, honestly.
Yeah, we get primetime Deshaun. Everybody's healthy. I mean, primetime Deshaun with a chip on his shoulder. That right there is why the game's going to be competitive. And it may honestly be our best chance to beat him, even though I think we're going to kind of focus a little bit more on deep passes this year. And he's not going to have the timing down with Cooks. He's not going to have the timing down with. He may hopefully have a little bit better of timing with Stills after an entire year with him. But we're going to come out and it's going to be competitive and it's going to be a good game. If nothing else, it's going to be a great game. I'll put that out there right now. It's going to be a great game.
Well, you couldn't think, like, if you're looking at the NFL and you're looking from a marketing standpoint, this is likely there's a good chance this is the first sporting event that we will have. There's no other plans for games. This is all we have to go off of right now. You couldn't have given the NFL a better matchup to launch the 2020 NFL season than Deshaun Watson versus Patrick Mahomes after what happened in the divisional round last year. This is the most ideal situation for the NFL to open up. Now, I think to touch on like the Brandon Cook stuff and the chemistry, we said that same exact thing about Kenny Stills and then what happened in the Saints game. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's some deep connections to Brandon Cooks. I wouldn't be surprised if the chemistry is there. He's familiar with the offense. They're going to have to build a rapport between the two. But I think as far as Bill O'Brien goes, I think, like I said, it's not going to be something that is going to be repaired overnight. This is going to be something that we will hear all season. It's not going to matter, but it's a start. And that, I think that's the biggest thing is as fans, I think a lot of fans feel lost still to this day. And I was taken back by Cody's comment. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I got to stop looking. I'm going
to knock on wood.
I'm going to hide the comments for me. But anyways, yeah, I think this is like ideally what you want to build momentum. When you look at the schedule, if you can come out of this schedule, I don't know, what would you say? 3-1, 2-2?
Yeah.
2-2 means that you beat, like, okay, so there's different ways to cut the 2-2. If you beat Kansas City and Baltimore and lose to Pittsburgh and Minnesota, I don't really know how you're going to feel because you just lost 2 games to 2 teams that you probably should beat. If you beat Kansas City, lose to Baltimore.
I think your mic's muted.
James, did you mute yourself?
I did. It was an accident, but I'm glad you guys caught that. I think my cord is coming loose. Anyways, I think there's lots of different ways to cut it. But when you look at the Kansas City game, I think this team can go. I think we can hang with Kansas City. I know it didn't look like it in the divisional round after giving up 24-0, but this defense should be a little bit different. Cobb is going to be a big piece. David Johnson's going to be a big piece.
Here's the interesting thing when you say that there's different ways to cut it, and maybe I should save it till after we talk about the first 4 games. Let's say we go 2-2 over the first 4 games. We beat Kansas City, lose to Baltimore, which would be we could live with that, and then either lose to Minnesota or Pittsburgh. Most likely Minnesota, because I think we should be able to beat Pittsburgh. With that, we'll actually be over the moon. Would be very excited about the team, especially going forward. But you said that if we beat Kansas City, beat Baltimore, and then lose to Pittsburgh and Minnesota, would actually be down and confused.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. Like, we'd be more excited splitting the games than if we would winning both of them if we lose the next 2.
Well, because that's the Bill O'Brien recipe. Just like New England last year, we beat New England, probably played our most complete game of the season against New England. And then the following week, I drive all the way down from Austin again to watch them get absolutely carved up by Drew Lock. So,
that game?
Yeah. So,
sorry, man.
Jesus.
So you move, you beat, no, you're good. You beat Kansas City, you beat Baltimore, but then you drop to a 40, however old Ben Roethlisberger is, who just hasn't looked the same, since he lost Antonio Brown. And then you lose to a Kirk Cousins-led Minnesota Vikings. I really don't think that the fans would feel really good about that.
The best thing about Roethlisberger is what his workout is. His workout is drinking beer and playing golf.
So funny. So funny. No, Cody, you got drunk together. You were drunk as F together at the New England game. John and I were completely sober. You were squashed. So
Cody's like, who are you? I'm like,
all right, so let's move on to week 2. Probably, I don't know which matchup is more difficult. Like, we saw what Baltimore did to us last year. They just trounced us. But we've also seen how to beat Baltimore since that time. Jordan, what are your thoughts on the Baltimore game?
For me, I have more confidence in us beating a team with a good offense than with a good defense. So with the Chiefs, they've got a great offense, and I'm confident with that because I know we can hang with them. I know our defense, it's not great, so they're probably going to give up points either way. But so yeah, with the Chiefs, I think we can hang with them because the defense isn't great. But the Ravens, I'm more scared of because of their formula. I don't like going up against teams with elite defenses, and that's what they got. Their secondary is as good as it comes, and they've added a lot onto the D-line with Calais Campbell, Derek Wolfe, some other guys. They've gotten better in the linebackers. So that defense I'm honestly pretty scared about. And the offense should be still just as good. And we saw how big of a leap Lamar Jackson took in just 1 year. He's going to take another big leap, I'm assuming, because they're probably not happy with how their playoffs got ended early against the Titans. So he's probably motivated. And they're going to come out strong. So I'm even more worried about the Baltimore game than I am the Chiefs game, honestly.
I think that's fair. I think Baltimore, it's going to be interesting to see what this defense looks like. This will be the real first test without DJ Reader against a very, very good run offense that only got better in the offseason. If Blacklock, it's going to take time for Blacklock to get accommodated to the NFL. Yeah, this matchup to me, like, if I actually had to pick a game to win between Kansas City and Baltimore, I'd feel better about a win against Baltimore than I would a win against Kansas City, if that makes any sense.
Me too. Yeah.
No, I think we're all in agreement on this. Baltimore scares me a lot more than Kansas City does.
Me too.
Kansas City, I expect fireworks. I expect heartbreak. I expect a good game. The way Baltimore's built, though, they can kind of grind us to a pulp. And we don't have Derrick Henry. I mean, you're like, yeah, you exposed how do you beat Baltimore? Easy. You have a running back like Derrick Henry, and you get an early lead, and you force Lamar Jackson to throw. Lamar Jackson is a much better passer when he's in rhythm, and when he doesn't have to be a pass first, But once he's past first and you get him out of rhythm, then yeah, he's not going to be able to throw to keep up.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it over and over again with Lamar. I mean, Jordan, what are your thoughts on Baltimore's offense? I mean, they obviously added Dobbins as if like they needed to.
Right.
And, it's kind of like that year that we took Will Fuller and I was super pissed off as that was considered a luxury pick, in my opinion. Jordan, what are your thoughts on the Baltimore offense and specifically the Baltimore offense against this new look Houston Texans defense that we have no idea what they'll look like?
Yeah, so obviously the first thing is stopping the run. And with stopping the run, you got to play discipline, you got to play strong, but you also have to be able to deal with their speed with Lamar. And I'm just not that confident with our linebackers. Zach Cunningham's great, but Arjun McKinney running sideline to sideline, trying to chase down Lamar Jackson, that's not going to be instilling anyone confidence. As good as he is, and I love him for sure. But I'm worried about that. Their offensive line, I don't think they lost anybody. They might have lost their center or someone, but I don't know for sure. And their scheme's always been great. I love what oh my god, I'm forgetting the offensive coordinator's name, but I love what their scheme does, creating advantages. So I'm definitely worried about that for sure. Like what you said is, if we can stop the run, if Blacklock can ball out, Brandon Dunn, everyone on the interior defensive line, Timmy Jernigan, we can get them into third and longs, force Lamar to throw. That's going to be our formula, and that's how we can get them off the field and get Deshaun Watson on and the offense on the field. And I think it's really going to come down to who wins the time of possession game, honestly, for that. And that's with most games, but with that team in particular, for sure, because that's how they win games.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is I'm okay then 7 brings up a very good point. They lost Hall of Fame right guard, I believe, Marshall Yanda. And from what I understand, they have no idea who's going to be taking that spot yet. So that's a big hole to fill because Yanda is probably as good as they come when it comes to the guards. So, Baltimore's scary. Will they be without Earl Thomas, who decided to have a threesome with his brother? I don't know. I mean,
does he get disciplined for that?
I'm sure he got disciplined enough by sharing a woman with his brother. So I don't know if he needs a suspension for doing something like that, to be honest with you. But in all honesty, like Earl Thomas might not be there. Who knows? We'll see what comes out of that. That defense to me is, and then they took your boy Jordan Patrick Queen in the first round, so they're going to have speed at linebacker. I don't know if I don't know if he'll be able to stay with Duke or David by week 2. He's going to have to get acclimated to NFL speed, but they've just done everything that they normally do as a franchise. Is they just get better. They're so good at drafting. It's almost as if every year the draft board falls specifically to the Ravens. Yeah. It's almost disgusting when you watch and just look back at their draft. And then they've made some other moves in the offseason too. So, yeah, Baltimore scares me more than Kansas City. I'm confident that we can go into Kansas City and win. I'll be honest, I'm not confident that we could beat Baltimore even at home. And wasn't the game against Baltimore? That was at Baltimore last year, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, and then they got Justin Matabuke. So yeah, I don't know. The Ravens scare me. The Ravens definitely scare me. So let's go on to Pittsburgh. Jordan, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on Pittsburgh?
So the Steelers, they really do have a really good defense. That's what got them as far as they did last year. That's something that we'll have to respect. They got playmakers on every single level. TJ Watt. They had a rookie linebacker last year, Devin Bush, I think that's what his name. He balled out. Minka Fitzpatrick, Joe Hayden's still great. So that defense is the only thing that worries me about Pittsburgh, though. Their offense, nothing. They got some weapons, but they couldn't put it together last year. And like we've been talking about, Ben Roethlisberger, he's old. He's been declining. I don't have any confidence in that. I think that's going to be one of the best games our defense is going to have, honestly. And if we can force them into turnovers, get more possessions, I'm not as worried about their defense. So I think we can. I think that's our easiest game, obviously, of the 4.
John?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Their defense is, again, scary. Took them to the playoffs last year with almost no offense to speak of. But their offense this year is going to be a little bit better than it was last year. Of course, getting Roethlisberger back. I mean, granted, even though all he does is drink beer and play golf and go play football, he's still a good quarterback. He's pretty frustrating. They added Chase Claypool, who's essentially a tight end, and they've got some depth at running back. And why am I forgetting their names right now? Behind James Conner.
Yikes.
But yeah, dang. But they're that team that, yeah, Juju is a good guy. Like, I want him to do well. I don't want the rest of the Steelers to do well. And I know I'm going to be tired, as I cannot even believe, of hearing all about J.J. Watt playing his brothers. So hopefully J.J. Watt decides he wants to be the big brother and just, crush them. And JL Productions actually brings up a great point. Deante Johnson was I believe he led all rookie receivers in separation created last year.
Yep.
He just didn't have a quarterback that could throw to him. So this year, getting Big Ben back, I mean, that should only do good things for him. So he should be somebody that you look out for fantasy football. However, I agree, of the first 4 games, it's definitely the easiest one to play.
Yeah, when I look at the Steelers, like I understand that their offensive weapons are something to keep in mind. It's more of the decline of Ben Roethlisberger and his lack of engagement over the last 2 years, I guess would be the right terminology. He just doesn't look like he's into the game the way that he used to be. And the picture that they floated, like he killed a bear the other day or something crazy like that. Like it was like he was out hunting or something, and he looked worse than Paul Bunyan. So, I don't really worry about the offense, but I'll be honest, I don't know what this Texans defense is going to look like. So this could be one of those games where they have a good game as an offense, and our defense just is exposed. We don't know what the pass rush is going to look like, and that's going to be the biggest thing. Ben Roethlisberger, the offensive line for Pittsburgh is pretty good. Heidi is maybe my favorite person in the chat. She's extremely funny now. Anyways, when I look at their offense, it doesn't worry me. The defense, on the other hand, this defense might be the best defense in the league this year. When you look at the additions, when you look at Minka Fitzpatrick coming over mid-season, we saw what he did the rest of the year. TJ Watt's only getting better. I love their defensive line and Stephen Tuitt specifically. I think he's an underrated defensive lineman that doesn't get a ton of love. That's a guy that when you put on the film, he just bursts through. And yeah, actually, they did get Eric Ebron too. So I don't know. Something about the Steelers, it just doesn't feel right. And I could be totally wrong, but that offense just does not look scary to me.
Ebron might make them worse, honestly.
What's that?
That's not good.
No,
Eric Ebron, I'm not scared of Eric Ebron at all. He's a player. He's going to drop more passes than he catches. So
he doesn't scare me, other than the fact that he always seems to do something against us.
That's actually a good point. He always seems to ball out against us for some reason. But I was feeling that was just like the Colts-Texans rivalry. I feel like now it won't be really anything. I don't know.
Oh, we're also usually bad against tight ends. So
yeah, I think so the Steelers. I don't know. That'd be a great game to go to. I would love to go. I'd love to go to Heinz Field. Is that at Heinz Field? No, yeah, it's in Pittsburgh. I would love to go to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh and Chicago are the two that I'm targeting this year.
What, Gerard?
Chicago
You're going to win the lottery and take us all to Green Bay?
When I what?
Oh no, Green Bay's a home game?
Yeah.
Is it for real?
I'm pretty sure, unless I wrote it wrong, which is definitely possible. I tried, like I said, I threw this together in 3 minutes, so it could definitely.
Because my brother's a huge Packers fan.
He's a friend, Packers friend.
Packers friend. No, I got to double check that real quick.
Anyways, all right, so let's move on. So Minnesota, Minnesota, I don't know. That team's interesting to me because I don't think Kirk Cousins is as bad as people make him out to be. I actually am. I'm not a fan of Kirk Cousins, but I do like Kirk Cousins as a quarterback. I think he's okay. I think he's above average. I take him over Jimmy Garoppolo. But that running attack is what scares me. Dalvin Cook scares me. I'm not sure what their defense is going to look like because they pretty much retooled their entire defense. They lost, I think, They lost Mackenzie Alexander. They lost another corner. Did they lose 3 corners? I feel
They
like
lost Mackenzie Alexander, Trey Waynes, Xavier Rhodes. They lost Everson Griffin. Still hasn't been signed. They brought back Anthony Harris though.
Yep.
But yeah, the defense. They drafted a first-round corner. I don't know if they've added anyone else though to that room. But I mean, the thing with them is like the corners they lost were all shitty corners. Like they were all awful. So if they had anyone who can possibly be better, it'd be good. But I'm with you. They're a little bit of a confusing team for me. I do worry about their offense, even though they lost Diggs. Who do they draft? They drafted Justin Jefferson to replace him.
Yep.
I think that'll be a pretty good offense. I'm with you. Kirk Cousins gets way too much blame. He's not good in prime time, but that's another story. This isn't prime time. He's going to play well. Dalvin Cook's great too. So yeah, that's a very questionable game for me too. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be fun. Is that one on the road or is that one here?
That one's at Houston.
Okay, that's a big thing because playing in Minnesota is always tough.
5 straight home games? 6 straight home games? No, I must have messed up. I don't know. Maybe the ticker's going too fast for me. They did take our boy Jeff Gladney.
Oh, I love Jeff Gladney. He's a perfect fit for them. Jesus Christ, he's perfect.
He is perfect. Pat says in Minnesota. Look at Pat's family. That's a beautiful family, Pat. Okay, so Minnesota. So they take Jeff Gladney. They're going to replace Mackenzie Alexander with Jeff Gladney. Their outside corners are still questionable. Their pass rush, I don't really know where that's going to come from. I don't know. I mean, I'm not scared of Minnesota, but I think it's like Jordan was saying. I think it's more of not knowing what to expect.
Unknown.
Yeah, I really don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kirk Cousins balls out this year. Like, I do think Kirk Cousins has the potential to be an extremely good quarterback. And I think another year with Gary Kubiak, I think Gary's now the actual offensive coordinator, correct, John?
He is.
Yeah, that's scary to me because Kirk Cousins fits exactly what Gary Kubiak would want in offense. So we're going to see a ton of Matt Schaub rollouts, a lot of play action. Dalvin Cook's going to get the ball a lot. I don't know. God, it's so weird because when you look at the schedule, like the first 4 games are tough, but like really the Pittsburgh Minnesota games, I guess, are somewhat of an unknown because if Ben is who we think he is, I'm not worried about the Steelers. And then if the Minnesota defense looks like what I think it could look like, I'm really not worried about.
Well, Zimmer's done more with less talent. When it comes to defense, he's really good at coaching up the defensive side of the ball. And what he's done in the past with less talented rosters, he's always scary. And granted, this Minnesota team is in the midst of transition. They've got a lot younger this offseason than they have in the past. Because for years, it seemed like, or for like 2 or 3 years, it seemed like they just kept everybody together. And the only major move they made was Cousins. But now a lot of those guys that have been on the Vikings and had really solid years over the past couple of years, they've moved on from. But it's still the Vikings. They usually make the right decisions when it comes to this. They're that team that's always a solid team, but they're never really a threat to go to the Super Bowl. And I imagine that that's still what they're going to be. They're that solid team, but they're not really a threat to go to the Super Bowl. But with the way Zimmer is able to put together, way he's able to scheme a defense, and if this is a game that is low pressure on Cousins, that's usually when he'll just ball out.
Yeah, the biggest thing that gives me confidence for Minnesota is that their offensive line is still trash.
Yep.
I don't believe they made any big additions, and that's where we can really take over our defensive line. As long as Watt's healthy, we have a deep defensive line now. We can rotate guys in who can stay, what's the word? Like energized, I guess, for like third down, have a lot of energy and be able to have good get off and stuff like that. So we can take advantage of their offensive line, stop
Cousins
their offense.
May have the worst pocket presence in the league. Like, I wouldn't just say that it's the Vikings offensive line is trash. Cousins just has no pocket awareness.
I don't know.
It's a little bit of both.
Bad. That offense is pretty bad, dude.
I mean, it's a little bit of both. But when you put somebody that has low pocket awareness in that offensive line, that if we ease up and we're not being very aggressive towards Cousins, I can see him getting hot. But if they just continue to blitz, don't go into prevent, which hopefully Weaver it doesn't take that page out of rack, then we should be able to keep Cousins quiet.
Yeah, they did take Ezra Cleveland out of Boise State. God, actually, their secondary. They got Cameron Dantzler in the third, so him and Gladney. They got your boy DJ Wanham out of South Carolina. They had a pretty nice draft, actually.
Wanham's going to be a player. He's just a little undersized.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I do think that the offensive line was garbage, though. Like, I've never seen, but the fresh legs thing is a big deal, especially for your boy Martin. If we can see Martin get on the field for 3 downs, I think this pass rush is going to look completely different than what it looked like last year.
I'm completely with you on that. I think he's got the most juice on the team right now. And as long as we keep him on the outside, that was something that I noticed was weird, is we line him up over the A gap, like trying to pretend he's Jadeveon Clowney and try and wreak havoc that way a lot more than I like. But if we keep him on the outside there where he's good, where he can utilize his speed and bend and burst off the edge, he's going to be great. And then rotating him with Watt, with Merciless, with Grenard, you got Omenahu, Blacklock, Jernigan on the inside. That's a deep defensive line. So, yeah, we got an advantage there for sure.
I just can't wait to see what the scheme looks like because it's going to be so interesting to see. Like, that's the most exciting thing for me with week 1 is seeing what this defense is going to look like. I'm not worried.
Figure out a way to get Martin and Merciless both on the field at the same time in an effective manner.
Yeah, like maybe just run a base 3-4.
Well, I mean, Martin really can't. He's not going to be a really good coverage. Grenard's the better Sam linebacker than Martin, but Martin's the way better pass rusher. So it's just how do you take advantage of getting Merciless can't cover. We've seen Merciless try to be the coverage linebacker. So if we're able to figure out a way to get both Merciless and Martin on the field consistently, and we're also DMAC also can't cover. That's the issue. Like,
correct.
So you got to pull BMAC and put Cole in order to keep Merciless and Martin out there. So when you kind of talk these things out, it's kind of understandable why they were shopping BMAC. But at the same time, BMAC's also pretty good at getting pressure. He's pretty good at blitzing. So it's interesting. That's all I'm saying. It's a different tangent for a different time.
So then we go on to Jacksonville for a bye. Have you guys been seeing this stuff on Twitter? Like, there's been a couple analysts that have been like, Gardner Minshew is watching this film. I think it was NFL Film Review actually tweeted something out about Gardner Minshew, talking about how he actually is a much better quarterback than people think, and he's going to shock people this year. Anybody put any stock into that? I think he's Case Keenum.
I think he's a decent quarterback. I think a lot of people are overrating his performance because he was a 5th round rookie, just kind of thrust in there. But I don't think he's garbage. I don't think he's Case Keenum. I think he can be good. I think he's got room to grow. The thing with him is that he didn't really have much around him last year.
And
and he was still pretty good. Like, their receivers aren't great. DJ Chark solid. Offensive line wasn't great. So I don't know. And their scheme, who did they get now? They hired the Vikings offensive coordinator, someone like that. I don't know. But Minshew, he's having to grow.
Jay Gruden. Jay Gruden's their offensive coordinator now.
No, I thought they got what's his name?
Who?
I thought they got the guy from Minnesota.
Yeah, Filipino or whatever. John.
Stefanski? To be the head coach.
Stefanski went to the Browns. There's a guy that.
Where did Jay Gruden go? I thought he went to Minnesota, or not Minnesota. I thought Jay Gruden went to Jacksonville.
Oh, let me look.
Yeah, Jay Gruden went to the Jaguars.
As an OC.
OC.
Oh, okay. Well, there you
Jaguars offensive coordinator Jay Gruden.
Okay, well, that still doesn't make me feel much better. I do like Jay Gruden as an OC, but I just don't know who Minshew's going to throw to.
No, fair enough. I'm definitely with you. Minshew is Case Keenum. I honestly believe that. Case Keenum has showed some ups and downs depending on who the offensive coordinator and the surrounding talent. But right now, the Jaguars just don't have the talent around them. I mean, Chris Thompson with Minshew's pop gun arm will be annoying, but Jacksonville should not be scary this year like they were the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look. Leonard Fournette's on the trade block. Who knows where he lands? Yannick Ngakoue is likely going to be gone before then. And then if not, based on what has happened with him on Twitter, I don't know if Yannick's going to play this year if he isn't traded.
Same with Fournette. I mean,
Right.
both of them seem just like they went out. And
So
I mean, it's like, yeah, DJ Chark, who Tony Yayo pointed out. Other than that, I mean, they just released Marquise Lee, and he was a good player.
he was a good player.
Is D.D. Westbrook's still there?
He's okay.
So they got a little bit of speed on with the receivers, but
Who are their tight ends?
nobody.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't. You know, it's the NFL, so you can never just count out a week. I know I was joking, but I still think that they're going to be. We should beat Jacksonville. If we aren't beating Jacksonville, I think there's a real problem. I think to go back to that the first 4 games opening up. Do you guys see a situation where this team? I don't want to put it out there, but this team starts off 0-2 and possibly loses one or the Pittsburgh or the Minnesota game.
Oh yeah, that's well within the range of outcomes. That's starting off 1-3, and an embarrassing 1-3 at that.
That's, I guess, at that point, where do they go from here, Jordan? If they do start 1-3,
If they start 1-3 heading into that Vikings game, it's not going to look good. Morale's going to be at an all-time low. I guess the one way you can look at it is that they lost the two top teams in the AFC, you know? And that's like, as long as they were decently competitive games, like it's not anything to like end the season over. You know what I mean? You can't panic at that point. I think it was just a couple years ago we went 0-4. We started the season that way, and we went on a big winning streak, ended up making the playoffs. Like, so it's a long season. If we start off 1-3, it's no need to panic. If we go 0-4 after that Vikings game, that might be a different conversation. I think going 0-4 again in Bill O'Brien's era, after all the questionable moves that he's made, which we won't have to get into, I think it would give Cavalier a lot of ammo for sure, and give him a good reason to finally cut that off.
I mean, it's definitely possible that we could start off 1-7, 1-6, or if you look at all the games before the bye week, we could very easily go into the bye with only 1 or 2 wins, and after the bye, we would be very Bill O'Brien on brand to come out and win the rest of the season out, and save his job after everybody's ready for him to be done. But yeah, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, I think the way the schedule lines up, I wouldn't be surprised if we do go 1-3 or 2-2, and then start to rattle off some wins. When you look at the schedule after that, I mean, Jacksonville, you know, not necessarily easy because it's the NFL, but should be a win. Tennessee still doesn't scare me. I know everybody's still looking at Tennessee, and of course, every team in the AFC South has gotten to the AFC Championship game, but the Texans. But if they were to start 1-3, I still see them coming back and making a push because the schedule is that favorable. I think it's also just unique off season, right? You have to wonder about OTAs. You have to wonder about training camp, everybody getting in line, chemistry, all that stuff. I think we'll see some sloppy football for the first 3 weeks in the NFL across the league.
And I actually think that plays to our advantage. For all the crap that Bill O'Brien has gotten all offseason, the fact that he has loaded up more of a veteran type roster, but we should. I would expect the Texans to be more gelled than some of these teams. Like the Vikings did a major youth movement. We should come out better shape, playing cleaner than them. Baltimore, yeah, well, we do have to pray for them to get the flu or something like that. But we should be able to keep up with the Chiefs, which is strange to say that the Super Bowl champions, that didn't lose anybody, that actually gained Hilaire Edwards. Why do I always feel like I mess up his name? But they actually gained a very talented running back and returned all their starters. I feel more comfortable with that game than I do with the Baltimore game. Pittsburgh's just that wild card because you can get vintage Roethlisberger who comes out and just does annoying Roethlisberger things when he just won't die like you want him to.
Yeah, I don't know. It's just gonna be a weird offseason in general, or a weird season in general. I just don't know. Nobody knows what this is going to look like. Nobody knows if we're going to be able to play the first one. The first week one. I think there's a lot of different moving pieces. But I do expect this, just like what we've seen in the past when teams don't play players in preseason. Week 1 and 2, that's when they're, starting to get in football shape and things of that nature. We might see a lot of that this year because all these people or all these players haven't really been on the field. They haven't done workouts. Like, yeah, they're working out in the gym, but that's totally different than actually putting on the pads and getting to practice. So it's all going to be dependent on when they can get back to the facilities and actually practice. Jordan, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I don't put too much stock into it for us particularly because, like John said and you guys have mentioned, like, it happens to every team. Every team has to go through the same thing, so it kind of levels the playing ground. So I'm just not even really worrying about that too much. I think you can make a case of like some teams have more draft picks and some teams have more veterans, but I don't think it really makes that big of a difference to me.
Okay, fair. All right, so after Jacksonville, we go to Tennessee. I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts on Tennessee, John? I know you talk more about Tennessee than any other team in the AFC South. I mean, obviously they had a good season last year.
Tennessee, I don't think Tannehill can replicate what he did last year. They lost one of their tackles. They're going to continue to rely on just handing it off to Derrick Henry. And A.J. Brown is a legitimate beast. Like, he's going to be the receiver in the AFC South that everybody talks about for the next couple of years. Like, he's a really good player. And then defensively, they're still solid. They lost a lot of pieces, but they're still a solid defense. I think that they don't scare me. I think that they were better this past year and they still got lucky. But if Tennessee ends up with Clowney, that kind of changes things a little bit, a lot of it, actually. I still think we're the better team, but they're just dangerous enough and they'll be just annoying enough. And with Derrick Henry, because you can't tackle him, that we should beat him, but it's going to be one of those that just stresses you out.
Yeah.
For me, the main thing that drive their success was Derrick Henry, but then them also having Tannehill playing at such a high level. And I really don't have any confidence in Ryan Tannehill. He's Ryan Tannehill. He's going to come back down to earth. His stats were ridiculous last year, and they were just unsustainable. There's no way that he's going to keep that up, in my opinion. They might have some weapons around him. A.J. Brown's great, like you said. Corey Davis, I think he's pretty underrated, actually. But other than that, they lost to Laney Walker. They don't have like a third wide receiver. Yeah, and their O-line's not great too, like you said. They lost their starting right tackle, Jack Conklin. They have a rookie there now, but he's a rookie tackle who was late in the first round. He's not going to play amazing day one, right? So that's the main thing for me is I think Tannehill's going to come back down to earth, and then their offense is going to go back down to earth as well.
Yeah,
I agree that he has to come back down to earth, but they do have talent. Like, Jonnu Smith is an absolute beast. A.J. Brown is a beast. Derrick Henry is a beast. So Tannehill really doesn't have a lot of excuses to play badly, but he's still Ryan Tannehill. Like, seriously, he can't keep up what he did last year.
Oh, actually, another big thing that they lost is losing their defensive coordinator, Dean Pease, I think that's his name.
Thank you.
And he was one of the absolute best in the business. And their blitzes, they had some crazy blitzes that always seemed to work, and they were really good at disguising them and setting them up. And that's how they got home, because they don't have pass rushers. That's why they're looking for Clowney. They can't win one-on-one blocks, so they have to scheme it up, and they were great at that. Now Vrabel didn't even hire anyone else. We saw how he is a defensive coordinator.
Yeah, Vrabel's
no, he's taking it over.
He's acting defensive. Oh,
so the defense is going to be trash, at least scheme wise, and that's what really elevated them last year. Like, they had some pieces, but their scheme really took them to the next level.
The Jeffrey
that's
Simmons aspect, though, is a big piece because I totally forgot about him. They lost Drew Casey, but Jeffrey Simmons' second year, obviously he was hurt most of last year. He played a little bit, and then if you add Clowney to that, I don't know. I'm not worried. There's nothing about Tennessee that scares me. I think the best thing that happened to the Texans this offseason, was that Ryan Tannehill signed an extension with the Tennessee.
Yep.
To be honest with you, like I don't believe, like, we're talking about a guy who played wide receiver in college and really hasn't been a quarterback, and you gave him over $100 million to come be the franchise quarterback of your team, and he's never showed that he's able to do anything. So I don't know. Tennessee doesn't scare me. If you stop Derrick Henry, it's very similar to the Ravens in the sense that if you could stop the run and force Tannehill to have to stand back in the pocket and throw 35, 40 times, you should win that game.
You should.
Yep.
And again, I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that they're going to stress you out more than they should.
They do every year.
Well, we dropped 50 on them before. That was a lot of fun. I'd like
That
to
was
do that
Deshaun's
again.
rookie year. That was so fun. I was in San Diego watching that game. That was so much fun. All right. So then Green Bay comes to Houston. They had somewhat of a weird offseason.
We've got to go to that game. That game we have to go to.
In Houston?
Yeah.
Green Bay. Jordan's going to have to join us and go to his first game.
Definitely.
Yeah, that'd be really fun.
That'd be a cool game to go to. But like their offseason, their draft specifically, like they did Aaron Rodgers zero favors, and basically decided that they weren't going to surround the best quarterback that we've had in the league for the last 8 years, give him any other weapons when they've needed wide receivers. They take Jordan Love. They did add AJ Dillon, but they also have two really good running backs there prior to Dillon being added to the depth chart. Their defense, with Zadarius Smith and Preston Smith, definitely good off the edge. It'll be a good test for our defensive or for our offensive line. But Green Bay is not what Green Bay used to be. Last year they were their offense was average.
They made it to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, no, I understand. But I mean, when you watch them play, I never once saw a game where I was like, okay, this is the Aaron Rodgers Packers that we've come to expect. This is exactly what we should expect from this Green Bay Packers team. I haven't seen that. I didn't see that at all last year, actually, any of the games I watched. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Yeah,
I'll
so
let Jordan go first.
for me, the Packers, they won, 13 games last year?
Yep.
They were one of the worst 13-game win teams I've ever seen. Every time, and I wouldn't watch a lot of their games, but every time it was on TV, I'd give it a good look. They weren't great at all. And like you said, I think Aaron Rodgers, it's not the same old team. He doesn't have the same magic. He's getting up there in age. He was injured throughout the season. And the biggest thing for me is they lost on the offensive line. They lost, was it right tackle Brian Bulaga?
Yeah, Bulaga.
I think. Yeah, Bulaga, he's great. And they didn't replace him at all.
Tackle.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the draft here, like we talked about, like they added a quarterback, a running back, a tight end, linebacker, like all these other positions that they don't really need. And they didn't improve his weapons, which was a big thing. So I don't know. I'm pretty confident in the Packers game, honestly. I think we can take that. And then also because it's at home, I think that's going to win.
John?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. We should beat them. And this should not be a stressful game. The Aaron Jones scares me more than AJ Dillon.
Agreed.
Just because, he's going to wreak havoc on our linebackers if they still can't cover. Hopefully we've got something figured out by then. And then, like, Aaron Rodgers just isn't Aaron Rodgers anymore. Last year, they were that team that always won the close game. Granted, so are we. We're always the team that wins the close games. But for them, it feels like they're coming off on the downhill slope with their quarterback that always wins the close games, or we're still on the uphill climb with our quarterback that wins the close games.
That's a good way to put it.
And
That's a really good way to put it.
Matt LaFleur.
LaFleur.
I've called him an idiot for years now. So, and I usually don't trash talk coaches, and he's just one of those that I couldn't believe got hired as a head coach. There's nothing about his offense that impresses me. The only reason he got hired is because he vaguely reminds people of Sean McVay, even though he doesn't look like him, but he he like held his clipboard once, maybe.
Yeah, we're starting to see with that tree, we're starting to see that just because you had a cup of coffee with Sean McVay doesn't mean you need to be handed a head coaching job. I think with Green Bay, look, I think their pass rush is good. They have what is it? It's Desmond King. No, Desmond King's in San Diego. There's another corner that they have.
Jair Alexander.
Jair Alexander, who potentially could be on the rise to being a top 3, top 5 corner. But outside of that, like, they don't scare me. Adrian Amos in the back. I think that this offense can stretch the shit out of that defense. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. They didn't do anything at linebacker after losing Blake Martinez. I think it's going to be an interesting matchup because I think this will be one of those games where we see Duke and David just eating all day long on the shorts and the flats. I wouldn't be surprised if Randall Cobb has a good game. Their defense, while they have, like I said, a pass rush, the rest of their defense really doesn't concern me. And you're right. Like when we look at Deshaun, he's on the rise while Aaron Rodgers is on the decline. And as long as you got 4 back there, I'm not really too worried, especially about against an average offense. So I would probably mark that one as a W. Then we go to the bye week, which is great. That's it. Somehow, some way, every year we always have the most clutch timing for our bye weeks. Like, it's always at the right time. Almost, it's pretty much middle of the season. You couldn't ask for a better time to have a bye week. So that's great. We're not going to break down the bye anymore for you guys. So that's all you guys are going to get. You guys are going to have to wait until that week 7 to really see what the bye does. And then we go to Jacksonville. Okay, we already talked about Jacksonville. The next one up, this is I can't wait. I cannot wait. I can't wait to talk about it. I can't wait to have a podcast about it. I hope Jordan writes an article about how bad Baker Mayfield is, because I can't stand the Browns. I hate Baker Mayfield so much, and I don't think this team is going to be any good at all. I still think they're the Browns. I really do. I know they signed Conklin. I know that they drafted another tackle. I get that they have Odell. They have Jarvis Landry. That defense doesn't scare me. There's nothing about the team that scares me. And a new coach, it's going to take them some time. I don't know. I hate Cleveland. So
for those of you not familiar with this podcast, one of our big things is to create a Houston-Cleveland rivalry, just because we absolutely hate Baker.
I hate Baker. Hopefully Jordan does too. That would suck if Jordan didn't.
So if you're all here, welcome to it. We all hate Cleveland.
Jordan, what are your thoughts?
You may not have known it because you never thought about Cleveland before, because no one really cares about Cleveland. But now that you're here, you have to hate Cleveland.
Yeah, so I'm with you, James and John. I do not like Baker Mayfield at all. I'm not a fan of him. I think he's a dick. I think there's a lot of other names that I could call him, but I won't.
Yeah.
In terms of like an actual football team, we've heard it for the past 3 years now. Oh, the Browns won the offseason. The Browns won the draft. They won free agency. They keep adding all this talent, but they can't put it together because they have too many personalities in the locker room.
When they drafted Johnny Manziel, they got a higher draft grade than we did that year. Like, that's one of the things I'm trying to point out. They don't have either one of those first round picks anymore, and they actually got a B when we got a D for that draft. Everybody always talks up Cleveland. They're always going to let you down.
Well, let me tell you why. Can I tell you why that they do that? Because history shows that you can't be bad forever. So if you're the draft analyst,
I'm not sure. The Browns are trying to kind of prove the opposite.
But before, when they were the regular Browns, they weren't as bad as what they've been before they went to Baltimore. Like, the Browns, historically, as the Browns, haven't always been awful. So if they keep saying this is the year, they're able to point back and say, I told you guys, this is the year. You look at the talent, look at the hire of Kevin Stefanski. They're doing everything right. They got rid of their GM. That's all great. But until they show that they're capable of doing anything on the field, it really doesn't matter to me. Like, Odell Beckham has been pretty much non-existent. I mean, he was non-existent last season. Jarvis Landry, like, Baker Mayfield cannot. You talk about bad pocket awareness about Kirk Cousins. Baker Mayfield's pocket awareness is
back into the right every play.
It's every play. It's every play. So I think he's trash. So I really don't know And then also just like the stuff that he did, like with the Cheesecake Factory and the girls and all that stuff. I really hate the fact that here's the part though. Like if a Cam Newton or Deshaun would have done that, it would have been such a huge story. It would have taken off. It would have been on ESPN. It would have been the number one topic on Undisputed. Colin Cowherd would have opened up for that. Like, but because it's Baker, none of that stuff gets talked about, and I think that that's trash. So that makes me hate him even more. I don't even want to talk about the Browns anymore. We've given them enough time. I hate Baker so much. All right, up next, the ticker is going to remind me. Looks like I think it's Indy for the first time. If I had to guess, no, New England at Houston. This is okay. So let's have a conversation. I mean, are they hiding? Like, is Jared Stidham the guy that nobody knows about and just steps in? They're averaging 35, 40 points. Or is this the year that we see just Belichick mail it in and they go and get their quarterback next year in Trevor Lawrence?
If they're tanking for Trevor, we're gonna find out soon, and that's how you kind of like. I hope they are, just because anytime you get to beat the Patriots, anytime you get to beat Belichick, you should definitely enjoy that. But I mean, Stidham, he never impressed me in college. Am I wrong on that, Jordan?
I never watched Stidham. After we got Watson, I stopped watching quarterbacks completely.
Fair
I
enough.
couldn't do that to myself anymore. So he could be the GOAT for all I know. But yeah, he's too smart to actually try this season and then have their team go 7-9 or whatever and miss out on Trevor Lawrence. He's too smart for that. He knows what he's doing. He probably had this plan in place ever since Trevor Lawrence was born. They're going to tank. They're going to get the first pick. That's just how the NFL wants to screw us. So I'm not worried about this game at all. They haven't made any additions to plug up the holes that they've lost. Their offense was bad even with Brady last year. It's going to be even worse. Their defense is great, but if their offense isn't moving the ball at all, their defense loses a lot. So I'm not worried about them at all.
I'm not worried about them either. They're gonna field a good defense because that's what Belichick does. It's probably going to be one of those types of games where it's possession. It's a possession game because that defense plays extremely well. They drafted, they took all the guys that you expect them to take in the draft, and they're going to turn them all into a bunch of Kyle Van Noy's, and they're all going to be successful, and then go to get 5-year max ultra size deals in Cleveland and Miami and not perform. But like, that's just who they are. And yeah, Heidi, the Katy Tigers did rip Baker Mayfield 2 shreds in high school. It's actually it's a stat. So I'm very surprised that you knew that. So yeah, the Patriots, I don't know. I think that we'll see. I mean, I hope they are tanking because that's their only chance of really getting a quarterback. But then again, they could just sign Cam Newton and then we're all like, they'd sign him like a week before so nobody can prepare for him. Does some stupid Belichick move. He turns him into a pocket quarterback, and all of a sudden they just go on a run, and we're talking about the Patriots just like we do every year. Like any of those scenarios wouldn't surprise me.
No, you're right. Here's the thing that I'm kind of hoping on is Belichick is too much of a competitor, and he doesn't want his legacy to be tied entirely to Brady. I think that's kind of part of the let Brady go is Belichick wants to prove it was him, not Brady. So yeah, he'll probably turn Jarrett Stidham into, I don't know, at least a mid-level quarterback, and that's all they need with their defense.
Yeah, no, I don't think there's too much time to really spend on New England. I really don't like that we're not playing Indy earlier in the season because I think that there's one team in the AFC South that does concern me, and it is Indianapolis. I know there's a lot of talk.
You're muted again, James. Nope.
Yep. I need new mic cords, I think. I think Phillip Rivers to Indianapolis is going to be one of those moves in the offseason where everybody says, wow, we got that one wrong. He played behind an 2018 Arizona Cardinals and Houston Texans type offensive line for the last 2 years. He's not able to move.
James, you're out again.
I don't know what's going on. I'm sorry, guys. My kids have been playing on my computer. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Phillip Rivers really does what we've seen him do for at least one more year with Indianapolis. I think Frank Reich's the right coach for him. They have weapons. They have running backs. They have a great offensive line. And they have a coach that's going to be able to maximize Phillip Rivers. Everybody thinks.
And James,
I wouldn't be surprised if Phillip Rivers goes on and does something for the Colts.
You want to go, John?
Yeah, I would just say whenever it comes to Frank Reich, I never count him out. Rivers is the question mark on the Colts offense. I really like Taylor, them picking him up, and I think that him and Marlon Mack are going to be a great 1-2 punch. And who's they drafted a receiver as well, didn't they?
Yeah, Michael Pittman.
And Pittman was considered the most pro-ready of the receivers in this year's draft. Other than he was the most pro-ready out of the second tier. Not the top tier receivers, but there were so many receivers on this year's draft, and in other years, Pittman probably goes, I don't know, as a first round pick. So they added talent. Rivers scares me more than Brisket. But yeah, I mean, I'm with James. I'm going to agree that the Colts are again back to being the scary team.
I think they're scarier than they were last year, but not by a lot. I think we lucked out by playing them here, actually, because the Colts are a team that always gets injured. T.Y. Hilton's constantly injured now. I feel like Phillip Rivers is getting to that age where he's going to keep on getting injured. And I agree that his O-line's been trash in the past, but he's also just hasn't played well. I don't think he's reading the defenses as well as he used to be. He's throwing more interceptions. And the defense doesn't scare me. I know they added DeForest Buckner. They got some good linebackers, but they have no cornerbacks at all. They have that rookie they took last year, Rockison, who they seem to think is going to be great. I didn't like his tape from Temple. They have no cornerbacks, and I think we can take advantage of that for sure. I don't know. The Colts, they're still a tough team, but I'm not going to write them off and say, like, oh, we're going to lose both games to them. I think we're going to split either the Colts game or the Colts series or the Titans series. We're going to split one of those. The other one we're going to take 2-0. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
I don't know. I think that there is a good chance that Phillip Rivers has just one last good year in him, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was this year. Phillip Rivers is one of those quarterbacks that gets zero credit in the NFL, but when you look at his career, he's been extremely successful. He's a hell of a quarterback. He's a fighter. I guess it wouldn't surprise me if this is the last year we see of Phillip Rivers and he goes out just with a bang. I mean, the guy still has an arm that can throw downfield. He's not declining in that sense. And like I said, I know people hate it, but I do think Frank Reich is a good coach. And I do think that he's building a really solid team. You look at the defense, with adding a Solomon Thomas, DeForest Buckner, sorry. I do think that I don't know. I would not count out the Colts this year. I'm in agreement. I think Frank Reich is a fantastic coach, and any team that has Frank Reich plus T.Y. Hilton is going to terrify me. Yeah, I would agree. All right. So next up, we have Houston at Detroit on Thanksgiving. No, we skipped Detroit. I'm sorry, guys. I went to Indy. So the Thanksgiving game against Detroit. Anybody worried about Detroit?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm not worried about Detroit either. I just haven't seen them do enough. Like they just waste Matthew Stafford's talent. They're just like nobody talks about that story. Like Matthew Stafford had the potential to be a great quarterback, and yet once Calvin Johnson left, they just said, we're not going to surround you with any talent. We're not going to make the offense easier for you. We're not going to give you an offensive line, and you're just going to have to deal with it. I love Matthew Stafford, so I've always liked his arm. I'm not really too worried about Detroit.
Yeah, I'm not worried about them at all. I don't think Matt Patricia is a good head coach. I think he's a fine defensive coordinator, but he hasn't shown he can do anything as a head coach. I don't think he elevates the talent around him, and there's not a lot of talent to even elevate. Their offense doesn't worry me. They've got good receivers, and Stafford's still solid, but their offensive line isn't great. The defense is horrendous. They haven't replaced Darius Slay. So, did you guys know who they picked in the first round? I can't seem to remember.
They took the top corner.
They took Swift in the second round, right?
Oh, they took Okuda. Oh, I guess they didn't replace Slay. But yeah, other than that, their linebackers aren't good in coverage. I think that's going to be one game where, like we said, David Johnson and Duke Johnson are going to kill. Just get them in space against their linebackers who can't cover, and that's easy yardage. So yeah, I don't think the Lions are anything.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so then we talked about Indy. Let's see. So then I think we go to Chicago. Yeah, Chicago is funny because they have the potential to have a really stout defense. I think last year their defense didn't perform at the level that we were expecting based on what we saw the year prior. Khalil Mack came down to earth a little bit. Who's the quarterback, Mitch Trubisky or Nick Foles? Who really cares? Are they any different? Sure, Nick Foles can throw the deep ball better, but I don't see much of a difference with Nick Foles and Mitch Trubisky. Yes, let me take that back. I think Nick Foles is a better quarterback than Mitch Trubisky, but I don't think he's enough, that much better than him that he's going to make that much of a difference for the team. But if anything,
I would actually argue that's why the defense's play leveled off, is because Mitch was just so bad that he just took the soul out of the organization. That's my theory on it, because the Bears do have a ton of talent on defense, but their defense has holes, but it's still a very good defense.
Yeah, but their offensive line is still extremely questionable.
And part of that is their quarterback's trash.
True. Jordan, what are your thoughts on the Bears?
Yeah. It's going to be a fun game. Just another game to rub in their faces that they should have taken Deshaun Watson. That's got to be something that just irks the entire city of Chicago for forever, really. So I hope Deshaun balls out. The funny thing, or not the funny thing, but I guess it's on the road, right? We're at Chicago.
Yep.
So it's December 13th, I think I saw. So it's going to be a snowy game. It's going to be cold. So it'll be a fun one to watch for sure. I think like we said, I don't know. I'm not worried about the defense at all. Their secondary isn't great to me. They have Kyle Fuller as a cornerback, but they lost Prince Mukamara, their other starter. They lost their slot corner, Bryce Callahan, a couple years ago, and they haven't been able to replace him since. Their safeties, they got Eddie Jackson, who's great, and I don't know if they drafted one early, but I remember hearing from a lot of Bears fans that that's their biggest worry is safety play. So, I think that's a win against Chicago.
It's going to be his revenge game.
True. That's a whole nother topic. Gibson's mismanagement and all that. Jesus.
Yeah, we can get into that one next week. All right. So then we have
Cincy,
again, which we already talked about. Cincy, probably the worst time to play Cincy would be at the end.
You're gone again.
With Joe Burrow, that's probably when he'll start to click. But I'm also not too worried. We're still talking about a rookie quarterback. We're still talking about the Cincinnati Bengals. They have no incentive to really put out, to win a ton of games this year. They're still in rebuild mode. You can't count them out because it's an NFL game, but it's the Bengals. I don't really see too many reasons for concern, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
I think. Go ahead, Jordan.
So okay. Joe Burrow, he was great in college, put up ridiculous stats, but there was no college quarterback in recent memory, honestly, that had a better situation than him in terms of offensive line, in terms of weapons, in terms of scheme, which is the biggest thing. Joe Brady is a magician with what he does, and I don't know how the Bengals couldn't convince him to come and coach Joe Burrow, but that's one of their biggest mistakes that they'll ever have. The thing with him, they have weapons around Burrow. They've got AJ Green, they've got Tyler Boyd, They drafted the dude from Clemson, T. Higgins. If John Ross can ever figure out how to do anything more than just be fast, that'd be great. But they don't have an offensive line at all. It's really ugly there too. It's looking Houston level. They have Jonah Williams, who I love when they drafted him, but he got injured, so this is really like his rookie year. So he might not even play as well as they hope. Other than that, they didn't really do anything to add to that. So that's going to be the downfall. And also the defense is pretty horrendous. I don't think they have any talent at all. Their D-line's great with Reader, but other than that, their back end is trash, honestly.
Go ahead, John.
No, I agree. The Bengals are back to being the Bengals, and they've got a lot they have to do to kind of build their team up before they're a competitor. They have a deep receiving core. Joe Mixon's not a bad running back, but outside that, they don't really have much. They don't have much. They don't have an offensive line. They don't have a secondary. I don't even know who's playing tight end for them now. So Cincinnati, if we lose to them, it's because we're playing our B squad and we just don't care.
Yeah, it's interesting with the everything that's going on with the new wild card and things of that nature. There's going to be a lot figured out by that time. So who knows who will be playing and who won't. But yeah, and then we end in Tennessee. We already talked about Tennessee, so I don't think we need to talk about Tennessee again. I mean, let's early predictions, guys. But we know what the team looks like. We've added the players. We've seen the draft. We've went through free agency. John, I know this is your favorite game to play is predictions, but Jordan, I'll start with you. If you were to looking at the schedule, we just went through it all. Where would you say that the Texans end the season?
So I'm going to run by game just because I haven't really thought about that too much since we've done this talk and kind of learn more about teams. Chiefs, I'm going to go with a dub there, 1-0. Ravens, I'll say we lose, 1-1. Steelers win 2-1. Vikings at home, I'll say we lose that game. I'll say we'll start the first 4 games, the rough schedule, 2-2. Jags win 3-2. Titans, which one's at home? First one, we're on the road. I'll say we lose the first one, 3-3. Packers, we win 4-3. Going to the bye, 4-3, looking pretty good with our easy schedule ahead. Jags win 5-3. Browns 6-3. Pats 7-3. Lions 8-3. Colts 9-3. Bears 10-3. Second Colts game, I'll say we'll split it, 10-4. Bengals 11-4, and then the last game I think we'll throw. Honestly, I think it'll be another one of those where hopefully we don't play the starters half the game like we did last time and injure Deshaun Gibson. But I'll say we throw that and we end up with 11-5.
Okay. No, I think it's good. It's a 7-game win streak over there. I like it. That's we can go back down that memory of having when we won 9 straight. That was like one of the best feelings as a fan. I'll never forget the episode we recorded before that. So that was truly a blast. All right, John, take us through the schedule. Give us your thoughts.
I'm going to put the Chiefs and the Ravens together because I say we win one of them, but not both of them. I'm not sure which way it's going to go. I would bet the Chiefs because Deshaun just plays so much better at night. But the Ravens is still a nationally broadcast game. It's a little later in the afternoon. We set the world on fire against the Chiefs, but we just come up just short. So we go into Baltimore. We score quickly, and we force Lamar to throw, and they can't keep up. It's just one of those where we just jump out to an early lead. It's too much for them to come up, but their defense does settle down. After that, we'll beat the Steelers. So at that point, I'd say we're 2-1. Vikings we beat 3-1. Jaguars we beat 5-1. We're gonna be 5-1, and then it's gonna be the Titans. And I think this is one of those come back down to earth games. Not necessarily because it's the Titans, just because of where it's out on the schedule and it's a noon game. Follow that up with the Packers. So what do I got us? I got 5-2. Packers. To me, this is a toss-up game. I say 6-2, but I don't like us going 6-2. To tell you the truth, that sounds too good, way too good. Because we're definitely going to beat the Jaguars and the Browns, and then we'll be 8-2. It's Belichick, and Bob. Last year was Bob had to have everything go right for us to finally beat him. So I say 8-3. We beat the Lions, so we're now 9-4. Colts, we're gonna split, so I'm just gonna automatically put us at 10-5. Bears we beat, so we're 11-5, and then we're 11-5. We control our division, so we don't really play very hard versus the Bengals or the Titans. So we split those as well. So we end up about. Wait, I added a game. Regardless, I think we're going to end up at 12-4. And we're going to be right there in a contender for a 1 seed because we actually have a schedule that looks pretty good for us.
All right. I think we beat Kansas City. I think we lose to Baltimore, but I don't think it's anything like what we saw last year. I think it'll be something that's very close. I think this team's going to compete, but I do think that we'll lose that game. And I think it'll be one of those games where the defense is still trying to figure out exactly who they are. They run over us, but we still keep it close. I think we beat Pittsburgh, so we're 3-1. I think we beat Minnesota, I think we beat Minnesota, so then we're 3-1. If we lost, I can't see us losing to Pittsburgh or Minnesota, but who knows? That Pittsburgh defense is scary. Win at Jacksonville, so 4-1. Win at Tennessee, so 5-1. Lost to Green Bay, so 5-2. Win at Jacksonville. Win at Cleveland, so 7-2. Win at Detroit, 8-2. Hold on, I gotta wait for the ticker to come back around. Right? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 7-2. New England 8-2. Detroit 9-2. Lose to Indy 9-3. Crazy loss to Chicago because that just happens. So 9-4. And then we end with what? Cincy, or we go Cincy and Tennessee after that. So yeah, so then we go to Indy. I think we'll beat that. So 10-3, beat Cincinnati, and then beat Tennessee. So yeah, I think we go 12-4. I think we'll be a contender for that 1 seed. I think this offense is going to be so fun to watch. I really honestly wouldn't be surprised. I think that it would be ideal. I think being a number 1 seed would mean a lot to the fans. And I think on the offensive side of the ball, I think we have a real good opportunity. And I think Deshaun's really going to take the next step next year. And for me, that's really the biggest thing that I'm basing all of this on is we've seen Deshaun get better year over year. And I think this is going to be just another one of those years that he just gets better. And I think he's getting to a point to where once he gets to that all-time great status, and it's going to be really hard to beat this Texans team no matter who's on the field because he's that good. Any thoughts? Any comments?
I'm with you 100%. I think if you look at Deshaun Watson, everyone wants to compare him to Pat Mahomes, compare him to Lamar Jackson, who had borderline MVP seasons. I guess one did have an MVP season, but we have to forget. Yeah. But we have to remember that these quarterbacks, that's not the norm for these young quarterbacks to be balling out like that. Deshaun's really only played 2.5 seasons. And he's, 24, I think? That's crazy young. Most quarterbacks, they don't do well till way later in their career. A guy like Matt Ryan's a great guy who I always think of when I think about this. Is he really didn't start balling out till just recently when he was really at the top of his game, MVP level. And so it's not normal for Pat Mahomes to come in like that and do what he does. He's a different breed, but Deshaun will get there, and he's already so close, honestly. There's only really a couple of things that he has to work on, and we know he's a hard worker. We know he's one of the hardest workers ever. And like we've been talking about this entire time, primetime Deshaun Watson is a real thing. And I'm upset we don't have more primetime games, but he's going to get us to the playoffs where every game is going to be primetime, hopefully. And it's going to be amazing to watch. I'm really excited.
John, closing thoughts?
No, I'm in agreement. This is going to be Deshaun's year to kind of take a step up. the schedule is wide open for us this year. There's always that one team that seems to come out of nowhere because national guys don't know how to pay attention to local teams. It's the truth. I mean, they can't. They have to look at what's on. They have to look at headlines. They have to look at based on what people have done in the past. But they don't get to see teams develop. That's why teams come out of nowhere and surprise. And for us being a division winner last year, I still think that we're the team that comes out of nowhere and surprises because everybody's just so down on BOB. So yeah.
All right, so last one then. So we go 12-4 in my mind, 12-4 in John's mind, and then what was it, 11-5 for you, Jordan?
Yep.
Okay, so where does the season end for the Houston Texans? I know we're super early, but I want to hear kind of what y'all's thoughts are. Where does this team go based on what we know? Right? We know the vision of the offense. The only question mark is truly the scheme of the defense. But we know there's talent there. Jordan, where does this team go this year?
Here's what I'll say. It's all depending on health. If we're a healthy team, if we get Will Fuller and J.J. Watt into the playoffs, I think we can honestly go to the Super Bowl. I think there's a very good chance of that happening. I think realistically, if that doesn't happen, say one of them is injured, I'm not going to say who, just say one of them is injured, one of them we have, I think we'll make it to the AFC Championship for sure. And then for that, it all comes down to who we play. If we play the Chiefs, I think we got a great chance. We play the Ravens, maybe not as much. But I have a lot of confidence in Deshaun Watson, and it's kind of like a cliche, like Bill O'Brien says, like depend on like the internal growth of our players, but it's honestly true. You look at all the players that have so much room to grow, Justin Reed, guys like Lonnie Johnson, Charles Omenihu, Jacob Martin. If those guys all take a little step up, each one of them, we've got a solid team. We've got pieces on every single level of the team. We really don't have that many holes. I think our only hole right now is at safety. And I think we're going to be a really a team that everyone's going to underestimate, like you said, because of Bill O'Brien and all of his antics. And they're not going to take us seriously, and that's going to hurt them. And I think we got a lot of potential for sure.
John.
My mind just went blank. I'm sorry. No, I'm completely in agreement with Jordan. There's a lot of potential. This team should be a lot of fun. We are going to get that team that we wished for 3 years ago. We said if we only had the offense equivalent of the Saints and no longer a defense-only team, we will finally have a fun team to watch, if nothing else. And with that, I think that we should be going to the AFC Championship. The only way that I see that not happens is injuries happen right before the playoffs or during the playoffs. And there's just that one team that gets really hot and really lucky that's the destiny. But the way our team's built, I could actually see that being us.
I think that this team has a real good chance to do exactly what Jordan said. I think that there's a good chance that this team, based on how it's constructed now and the potential on offense and potential on defense as well, and this is what it's all based on at this point because we don't know what things will look like, but I think they have a good chance. I do think that the AFC Championship game is a likely scenario based on health, of course, and I think every team can say that. I think we play the Bills in the AFC Championship, and I think we have a good chance at beating the Bills. And I think Watson can overcome bad BOB. I really do. We've seen it in the league so many times where great quarterbacks are held back by coaches, but those quarterbacks still are able to do it. And I think Deshaun is that level of a player that he's going to be able to. I think when you look at the weapons, I think Daniel Lynch has a very good point. I know that we've had Hop, and I think it's a hard thing for everybody to wrap their mind around getting group production instead of production from one player. But this team is built at this point to be able to get group production out of everybody. From David Johnson, Duke Johnson, Brandon Cooks, Darren Fells, Jordan Akins, Randall Cobb, Will Fuller, Kenny Stills. The list goes on and on offense. And we're talking about, this is one part that people don't tend to think about the most. We're returning all 5 starting offensive linemen for the first time in the Bill O'Brien era. All 5 starting offensive linemen will be returning and starting next season. That is so big. And they're only going to get better. And when they were all 5 on the field last year, they were a lot better than what we've seen in the past. So I think that everything is lining up for the Texans to be able to do it, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. Anybody got any comments, thoughts on that?
That'll continue to.
wow.
I mean, again, this is a team that's been built around Deshaun Watson. We said it in defense of the trade that even from then you could tell that this is the goal this year. This was the plan. They are building the team around Deshaun. You have an offensive line that has stability. There's no more excuses there. A very talented offensive line. You've got pass catchers everywhere. Pass catchers that play to Deshaun's strength. The question isn't on offense. Deshaun and the offense are going to take us where we need to go. Our defense is heavily reliant on JJ though, and either A, we can surprise everybody, and JJ isn't as important as we think he is to the defense. Other players step up, or we get a healthy JJ at the end of the year that we can really make that push.
Yeah, I think with the defense, a lot of it is scheme and personnel. If we stick, so I've been rewatching the defense last year, and I noticed every time we were in cover 2 or cover 4, we got absolutely killed.
Yep.
It didn't matter who, the linebackers, the cornerbacks, even the safeties, it didn't matter. But when we moved to man, play cover 1 man, it was night and day. It was completely different. People were covered up, and they would still might get a pass on us, but that's because of a lack of pass rush. But people were covered. It was like I would keep on pausing it throughout the play, and there was no separation. And so I think if we stick to that, more man-heavy defense, and then just make simple personnel decisions, like not starting Brendan Scarlett, either having Jonathan Grenard or Jacob Martin in his place. Simple things like that. If Bill O'Brien or Anthony Weaver, whoever makes those final calls, can trust some of the younger guys like Jacob Martin, like John Grenard, like doing something like instead of starting Vernon Hargreaves in the nickel, start John Reed. Doing little things like that where, yeah, it's a veteran season and all, but these rookies, these young guys got talent. You got to give them a chance. If we can make those personnel decisions, and the scheme changes, like I said, which I think we can, defense should be better by a lot, in my opinion.
I agree. All right, guys. Well, thank you for a great conversation. Everybody in the stream, make sure you guys hit the click, like, and subscribe button. Jordan, thank you for taking time out of your busy day. John, obviously, always fun to talk and chat with you. You guys have got a lot of content coming your way. Articles. I think we have this is coming out tomorrow. We have the Antonio Cromartie coming out. We have the interview with Saw Sports coming out on Monday. We still have to put out the David Johnson interview in the podcast form. We have a ton of stuff going on. So make sure you guys like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you guys go visit the site, Texans Unfiltered. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. You can follow Jordan at Texans_thoughts. You can follow John at Houston FB Pod. And you can follow me at I am YoungAriGold on Twitter. With that being said, I am YoungAriGold signing off for Texans Unfiltered. We'll catch you guys next week.